a few weeks ago, we were planning to record an entirely different episode, and some things bubbled to the surface, and it became kind of apparent that we were suffering from severe overwhelm ourselves. It was, I don't know, what all was it?
Oh, we'd been sick quite a bit. It seemed like somebody in the house was sick constantly for weeks on end. We were just kind of passing it around the house.
It was the worst mosquito season we've had in years, and they were just driving us nuts. It was really bad this year.
Yeah, we were wondering if maybe we were constantly getting sick because of histamine reaction from all the mosquito bites.
And
of course, then garden, there's so much to do. We're so far behind where we should be with the garden.
We had big plans for this year, and life happened, and
then it happened again.
And then, we've got lots of plans for our water system, some improvements we wanted to make this year.
And of course, then the hot water heater had to act up and decide it wasn't going to work for us. So
we thought we were going to have to buy a new one and go through installing it and everything.
Spent a lot of time on that water heater trying to get it to work for us.
And then all the animal issues we were dealing with.
We had a batch of turkeys that hatched that had every issue under the sun, and then some.
And you spent so much time doctoring those turkeys.
So much time doctoring those poor little turkeys. Anyway, then of course we have car repairs. I think we're riding around in a little rattle trap that's
dying.
We're nursing along. It's dying a very slow and painful death.
We decided to drive it until the wheels fell off, but the wheels have actually almost fallen off a couple of times.
Literally almost fallen off. And we screwed them back on. And we keep screwing them back on.
And then we'd look out the window and see that the grass needed to be mowed desperately. Yeah. And
we still don't have our firewood in.
That was
stressing
planned
about that.
That was planned for months ago. That was like first thing in the spring when
May.
As soon as the weather got nice, we were going to get the firewood in, and
we still haven't gotten that done.
And we need to rebuild our house. Yeah. When we bought this place, we got a good deal, but we knew that our years were limited with this structure. It was not built very well, and we knew we'd have to rebuild it. And so that time is approaching.
I really want to hop right now just so that way we can see how bad this house is.
Make the floor shake.
It just shakes everything.
Yes. And then on top of that, we just returned to our family business, Sustainable Preparedness.
Just in case we didn't have enough to worry about already.
After a 4-year stint in the tech industry. And so there's a million things, of course, when you're getting a new business off the ground again.
A long laundry list of things that we need. If we could just cologne ourselves about 5 times.
Yep.
Maybe we could get something done.
And so I guess the question is, does that sound like you? Do you resonate with this? And if so, then this episode is for you. I'm not exactly sure where all it's going to go. We're not quite sure exactly what to say, except that we kind of wanted to just be vulnerable and help. We're hoping that maybe it's helpful for you to realize that we all struggle with this.
You're not alone.
Yes.
You're really not alone. We don't have it all together like it might look like.
Not at all.
By a very long shot.
We're definitely a work in progress. But we did want to share a few things that have been helpful to us over the years, and even more recently when we are dealing with overwhelm, and maybe something here will resonate with you and help you with this is what we're hoping.
Yes.
But if you're feeling overwhelmed, I think this is like one of the overarching things here. If you're feeling overwhelmed, recognize that your body is trying to tell you something. Something's not right. And stop right now and take a deep breath. Take a break and do something fun with your family, get refreshed, and then you can come back at this to work again on your homestead goals or whatever it is, the million things that are pulling at you and stressing you. But I think that's one of the best things that we've found is that really helps in the moment to just stop and take a break. Because when you're in crisis mode, when you're in fight or flight mode, which is what you're in when you're feeling extreme overwhelm, then you can't really think through any of this other stuff that we're going to talk about. And so you kind of need to just take a break, de-stress, calm down, and then come back at this with a smile on your face.
Which reminds me.
The Ready Life, into the country.
Welcome to the Ready Life podcast. I'm Lisa.
And I'm Nick Meisner.
And today we're just sharing from our heart about why or how we've learned to deal with overwhelm.
Right. And hopefully not just deal with it, because that sounds like we've learned to live with overwhelm. And
to get rid of it.
Yeah, that's, I think, one of the biggest things for me is recognizing that this is not something that any of us are equipped to be living with on a regular basis. And we want to try and get at the root issues here of why is it that we're feeling overwhelmed, and, some things like that. So it's easy to make big goals.
Yes.
And get so focused on them that you cease to live. You stop living.
I have a chronic problem in that department. I can't tell you how many times he has come and grabbed me gently by the arm and led me into the room and just said, you need to take a break. He'd rub my feet or my back or something, just said, breathe, drink something. It's okay. The world isn't going to end tomorrow if you don't get everything done. Let's just look at what you have to do and let's see how we can simplify or streamline some of these things or outsource them. Like maybe have the kids get involved and help.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so it really helps to kind of just stop and take a break and think about where you're at, where you want to go, and how you can simplify and de-stress in the moment.
Right. So, having said that, what are some of the things that we've found that have been helpful to actually get at some of the root issues here that are causing overwhelm?
Well, there's been a number of things that we keep going back to. One of them that we found really helps is to establish a rhythm. Some people call it a schedule. We are not a rigidly scheduled family. We don't function very well under like a rigid schedule. But what we did do was we implemented a rhythm. We don't always keep to the rhythm every single day, but it's, we know that when we get up in the morning, the kids have their daily habits first. Then we eat breakfast. And then after that's the chores. And then after chores is school. And then after school is free time. So that kind of establishes a bit of a rhythm for our household. We try and have breakfast at roughly the same time each day and lunch at roughly the same time each day, give or take. But having that rhythm kind of keeps us on track. Even if we might be late or early, we know where we're at in our day.
So it's kind of a order of events where we have an idea of what's on the agenda, and this is the order that it's going to happen in.
Yeah.
And then there's a few waymarks along the way, like kind of the meals.
They kind of anchor our day a little bit.
Yeah. But when you can establish a little bit of order out of chaos, then I think what you're saying is that can really help your brain to surround all of the other complexities of life.
And one thing, too, I remember in setting up my order or my rhythm that was helpful was that I tried to just tackle one thing outside of your regular rhythm, just one thing each day. And
rather than 10 things.
Rather than 10 things, because I'm a list person and I start my day out with a very long list of, 27 different items that I'd like to get done for the day. And then I start beating myself up and stressing and then grumping at the kids and become a little bit of a tornado in the house. Just having that rhythm and trying to simplify what am I going to try and accomplish today before I actually dive into the day has really helped. Just saying, okay, today it's just one thing.
Right. So then I guess that would kind of go along with our another item that we wanted to mention, which is create attainable goals.
Yes.
To don't try and be Superman or Superwoman.
Get 27 things done in one day.
Yeah. You can always do more if you have time. But if you start your day trying to do the impossible, you've already set yourself up for disappointment and overwhelm and things like that.
And frustration.
Yes. And so then another one that we were talking about was long-term decisions, trying to break out of survival mode, because that's one thing that I think we found is when we get overwhelmed, it's often because some things have happened that have kind of moved us into survival mode where you're not...
Brain starts thinking that way.
Yeah, you're just trying to survive today. And you're not able to make good long-term decisions that you're going to be happy with down the road. And it kind of creates a chain reaction where when you start making a bunch of short-term decisions that, just for instance, right now you're stressed because of finances or whatever. And so you buy the
cheap thing,
let's just say pair of boots for, I'm a guy, I like boots. So you buy the cheap pair of boots at Walmart for, what do they cost at Walmart? $30, $20,
something
whatever.
Like that.
And then you make this kind of a decision with a lot of other things, and then they disintegrate and they fall apart.
3 months later, you need a new pair of boots.
Exactly. And when you are doing this with a bunch of different things, then you end up with these recurring things where you're having to be replacing the disposable items that you got, cheapo disposable stuff. And this is adding more and more to your plate, and it accumulates more and more, where making long-term decisions, yes, it's painful, financially in this particular example of buying things. It doesn't have to be buying things. It's long-term decisions all the way around. But just in this example of, the boots, I have a pair of boots that I bought literally 25 years ago, and they're still very serviceable. And yes, I paid certainly more than you would at Walmart for a pair of cheapies, but I haven't had to buy new boots every year or two.
Yeah,
and
they're nice boots. Let me tell you, I've stolen them a time or two.
So, all this is, I know we're talking a lot about buying things, and it's not just buying things, it's making long-term decisions on a lot of fronts. All the different fronts of our life can help to stop that snowball effect that happens when you're making short-term decisions and you're just living from day to day in survival mode. I think that's what we're getting at, right?
Yeah. Like when your dad was sick and I decided not to do a garden. I decided to prioritize and said, I'm going to spend as much time as we can with your dad. And now I don't regret that long-term decision, even though, sure, we didn't get to enjoy homegrown tomatoes or, the usual fare. But I don't have any regrets because we were making more of a long-term decision, thinking about what's more important in our lives.
I'm glad I'm glad you brought that up, because that makes me think of something I heard a little bit ago that really resonated with me, and it's called the 4-burner principle. And
yes.
so the idea, the concept is that your life consists of 4 burners. Think of a stove, and it's got 4 burners on it. Those 4 burners being your family, your work, your friends, and your health. Those 4 things: your family, your work, your friends, your health. And the concept is that anytime you turn one burner up, it's going to naturally turn the other burners down. It's going to have you might say, negative impact on the other burners, or it's going to impact the other burners. Yeah. And so the idea is that in order to do really well at any one of those things, you're going to have to turn another burner off, or a couple of burners down. It's not a rigid thing. Like if you turn this one on, you have to turn that one off. It's just the whole concept of life as a balancing act of priorities. And so what you were describing made me think of that, because we all have different priorities, and our priorities might be different at different times and at different stages in our life. But at that point in time, we realized we needed to turn up the family burner, and that was impacting some other areas of our life. Yes. And things like that. So long-term decisions and
Something else that was helpful for me, I remember it was back when I had little babies, and I had 2 little babies, and you were working full-time, and I was trying to work also with our family business, and I just was getting lost in the mess of trying to survive. And I was talking with my sister one day, and she was in the same boat that I was, like just lost in the mess of what seemed like impossible. Like I just couldn't keep up with the laundry and the dishes and the homestead, and there was so much to do. And so we made a pact with each other to finish whatever was in our hand at the moment. And so I remember I was sitting on the phone with my sister, and I was changing a diaper, and I thought to myself, okay, what that means is I'm going to get up off my rear end and walk across the floor and put this diaper into the trash, and then I'm going to take the dirty laundry off the baby, put it directly into the washing machine. Like I'm just going to finish whatever small little task I have in my hand at the moment, and slowly start to dig my way out of the mess or the overwhelm. Now, granted, that's, obviously speaking from a mother's perspective who is dealing with a lot of overwhelm, but the same goes true for my homestead. If I have something in my hands that I'm working at, the closest thing, like let's just take care of that one thing and see it to completion first before we move on to the next thing. And sometimes that means you need to sit down and prioritize, right? What's more important and what's less important, and then start with that most important thing at the top and just work your way through the list.
Yeah, that's a good thought. I was just thinking another thing that we've discussed a lot is, the old saying, keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Well, we have found that to be very applicable to even life here on the homestead. I can't tell you how many times that we've interacted with friends or acquaintances where they were just doing amazing things on their homestead. I mean, it was phenomenal.
Overnight, they've got this amazing homestead, and we're still over here like trying to plug our way through getting our garden set up or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and it was kind of discouraging. It was like, what's the matter with us? What's going on here? Why are they getting so much done? But as we discussed it and looked at things years later in hindsight, we've come to realize that, once again, back to the 4-burner principle, when you turn one burner way up, other burners are going to suffer. And we've noticed that other areas of their lives suffered. Relationships, family, or other areas of their
health.
life suffered. And, their burners were at a different place than ours. And I'm not trying to say that there's one set of burners that is the right way, that's just the right setting. And we're all the time adjusting these things. But it kind of drove home to us the principle that it's dangerous to be looking at the Joneses, the proverbial Joneses, and saying, why are we, and to get discouraged and say, why aren't we getting more done in all of this? Yes, there certainly are times where it's our own fault and we just weren't efficient or whatever. But a lot of times it's a priorities thing. And so own it, to be okay with that. That's what we've been trying to do is, yes, we need to get more efficient. I totally admit that. Yeah. But beyond that, to own our priorities and to be okay with some of those burners suffering because we turned other burners up. These are strategic decisions that we made. And so just to own it and to not worry about other people that are getting so much more done than you are in a particular area.
Yeah. I think a lot of times as homesteaders or as, trying to reach our dreams and goals, we can sometimes get frustrated that it takes so long. I know we sure have struggled with that a lot over the years because, we have these big dreams of what we want and how we want things. I mean, we're still living in a rickety old house and I want a root cellar. I want to be able to have a place to store all the food that I grow. There's so much that, that we want to do and we want to get done and we want to get it done right now. So that we can live this utopian life or this picture that we have in our heads. So we knock ourselves out trying to reach those goals. And I remember early on, we were struggling with that because, we need to hurry and get this done or whatever. And I think you were reading a book at the time and you ran across a quote that was phenomenal. And we've referenced it many times over the years, just kind of as a reminder. Do you remember the name of the book?
Well, let's see.
We've got the book here because
it was The Country Way.
The Country Way.
And it was on page 164. Why don't you read it? Because it's really, really profound.
Okay, so here it is. It says, some people seem to think they must accomplish in a few years what their grandparents spent half a lifetime doing, namely carving a comfortable home out of the wilderness. No matter whether the wilderness is a remote mountain valley or a rural half-acre, I see no sense in turning a potentially satisfying and rewarding experience into a period of nerve-shattering frustrations. Why would you choose to live in the country? Most likely because you crave the peace and quiet of the good life close to the soil. It is entirely possible that you could spend half of your lifetime trying so hard to make yourself, quote, comfortable on the land that you never have time to enjoy the peace and quiet that you have around you. Ambition is a laudable virtue if managed with temperance. The most enjoyable leisure hours are the well-earned ones. But if you find yourself too worn out to enjoy them, what have you gained?
That's something really, really profound. So I think that was something that really helped us to rethink this whole thing. And it's like, we need to live a little bit.
Yeah.
Or live a lot, actually. Why does it have to just be a little bit?
I know. The kids are growing up and they're going to be gone. And if we don't take the time to really enjoy them and enjoy the time that we have with them, we're going to look back with regret upon this time that we've had. Yes, we're going to have a nice home, or we're going to have a beautiful orchard, or we're going to have, all of the things we dreamed of, but we're going to have missed out on the most important things in life, which is our family,
right?
Which is enjoying the peace and the quiet and, the joy that comes from being out in nature and the quietness of the wilderness.
Yeah. So stop and smell the roses.
And enjoy the waterfall. That's what I like to say.
Yes.
When we were first dating, I believe we were on a camping trip, and he was very much, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And so we were paddling away in the canoe, and I'm just like, look, there's a waterfall over there. We've got to go check it out. And he was like, but. Okay, let's go check out the waterfall. He was such a good sport.
That's true. Stop and smell the roses or the waterfall.
Yes.
And, as far as I know that with a lot of us, ourselves included, we look at things happening around us in the world, and we feel a sense of urgency for what's coming. And that adds to the overwhelm, because that adds this urgency, this element of urgency. And I think that something that was really a turning point for me with that particular regard was the whole concept of human effort plus divine power equals success. God is not expecting us to work miracles. He's not expecting us to perform superhuman feats. All he's expecting us to do is what we have the ability to do the best we can with what we've got. And once we've done what we can, what we reasonably can, once we've invested our human effort into taking these measures, trying to become more independent, living in the country, doing the best that you can to get yourself into that position, whatever your best may be. Once we've done our best, then we can leave the rest in God's hands, and he's going to take care of us. He's promised that he will. I think that it's important, though, that we not think that he's going to just wave his magic wand and make everything perfect if we're not doing our part. And so that's where the human effort part comes in. He's looking to see that we're doing the best we can, and then he's going to take care of the rest. And I just think of the relationship that we have with our kids, and it's really helpful to think of God in that light, because he is our Father. And when we think about it that way, you just think about what you do for your kids. You don't want to have lazy bums that just think that they can sit there on the couch and you're just going to make everything hunky-dory.
Wait on them hand and foot.
Right. You're looking to see that your kids are working hard, that they're doing everything they can. And when they're doing the best they can, you would move heaven and earth to make things right for them.
To help them reach their goals and their dreams.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with God. I think of the promise, my God shall supply all your needs. And it's very true.
Yes.
So once again, if you're feeling overwhelmed, remember your body's trying to tell you something. Take a break. Remember, we started out this episode with that. Take a break.
Breathe.
Take a breath. Stop worrying. Do something fun with your family. Get refreshed. And then come back and you can work away at it.
Maybe go take a short walk or a little bath.
There you go. There you go. So we don't have all the answers to this, friends. I'm certainly not trying to act like we do, but we hope that maybe something we shared here has been helpful. And if nothing else, maybe it's helpful to know that we're all in the same boat.
You're not alone.
Yes, exactly.
We get overwhelmed too. And yeah, we haven't arrived.
We're all in the same boat. So anyhow, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.